We're learning the third Sikha on Parshas Yisro in Chelek Chaf Aleph on page 119. The shir today is being learned Lili Nishmas Rabbi Yosef ben Yamin ben Rabbi Menashe Kolkman. We see in Parshasenu oifum pasik v'leisala b'mailas al mizbechi asher lo yisigola ervoscha olav. In the end of the parsha, the pasuk says regarding the mizbeach that you shouldn't build steps to go up to the mizbeach, so that you should not uncover yourself. With the steps going up, you shouldn't be immodest. Zog de Michilte explains this as follows. We can learn from here a very important lesson. We can learn from here with a kavachayme. The idea of a kavachayme is when you see something applying in a very simple and easy situation, and that tells you how much more so it would apply in a more severe situation, as Michilte says right here. If it comes to the stones of the Mizbeach that have no understanding of their own, not for anything negative or not anything positive. Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says, do not behave with them in a disgraceful or humiliating manner. Chavercha, your friend, that he has the image of the one that created the world. Dinu, most definitely it's the right thing, that you should not behave with him in any humiliating manner. That's what it says in the Mechilte, the lesson that we learn from this halacha of not building steps to go up to the Mizbeach. Rashi as well quotes this kavachayme, however, Rashi changes certain things, and Rashi also adds certain things that it does not say in the Mechilte. And the Rashi's expression here is as follows. When it comes to these stones of the Mizbeach, they don't have any perception, any understanding to care, to be particular about their humiliation. The Torah says, since there's a need with these stones, do not behave with them in a degrading manner, in a humiliating manner. Chavercha, your friend, which is created in the image of your creator, and he is particular about his humiliation. Most definitely you have to be careful with his honor. Okay, so here let's take a look at the differences or the additions that there are in the words of Rashi. The fact that Rashi says the expression regarding the stones of the Mizbeach, that they don't have any perception to care about their humiliation. And he switches from the language of the Mechilte that says that they have no perception, not for the negative, not for the positive. Is move on bepashtus. So this is something which is understood. Because by highlighting the lack of any humiliation that the stones experience, in contrast to any humiliation that there is by your friend, is bepashtus musbar und starke the kavachaymer. So simply this explains and only strengthens the kavachaymer, the lesson we learn out from the stones of the Mizbeach. And it's for this reason, is there euch bei chavercha meisiv diverter und makpid al bezayne. Rashi adds the words when it comes to humiliating one's friend that he cares about his humiliation. Which the Mechilte does not say those words either. So that's understood why Rashi wants to highlight and stress the lesson that we learn from the stones of the Mizbeach. However, the Rebbe later in the Sikha will come back to this point when Rashi says these words to explain it better what Rashi is saying here, different than what it says in the Mechilte. Additionally, the change in Rashi's language when he says your friend which is in the image of your creator. And instead of the language the Mechilte says, that is, he has the image of the one that said and created the world with that. So is val yetzrecha, when it says that your creator, ret kapashet, wegen dem yetzer von dem eile b'mailas. What it's speaking about is, it's saying that your friend has the image of your creator, meaning the creator of this one that is going up on the steps, or in this case, the one that would be embarrassing his friend. That's why Rashi says this expression. However, das was Rashi is meisif. The fact that Rashi adds to the language that it says in Mechilta. Omra Torah, the Torah says about the stones of the Mizbeach that Hoil v'yesh b'em tzorech, since they have a need, they have a use. Tzorech lav, and this we need to understand. Why is Rashi adding this? Was gitzu der tzorech von der Avonim in der Asbaras HaKavachayme b'negei chavercha. What's this added point? That the stones have a use, that from this we learn out the Kavachayme, the lesson to not embarrassing, humiliating your friend. Why is Rashi adding this idea that the stones have a use to them? Das verstehen, behektem achilok wie der Pirish unlimit akosov, and welchem ezaktem Kavachayme anal. So we'll understand all this by first introducing and seeing and understanding the meaning of the pasuk itself, where this Kavachayme is, that the lesson with this Kavachayme is learned out from, is Mevur and Mechilte, and Vidas is Musbe and Pirish Rashi. As it's explained in the Mechilte, and then as it's explained in Rashi. In Mechilte steht früher. In the Mechilte here, before it brings this lesson we learn from not building stairs to go up on the Mizbeach. So the Mechilte says the following. Ashaloi sigale arvoscha olav. When the Torah says that you should not expose yourself going up to the Mizbeach, olav v'yatapiseh p'siyah gasa. The Torah specifically says, olav, going up to the Mizbeach there, you may not take large steps to expose yourself. Aval atapiseh p'siyah gasa b'heichel u'b'kodesh HaKadoshim. But you are allowed to take these large steps when you're going up to the Heichal, into the Beis HaMikdash, and also even in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies. Ashahaya B'din, you would think that it would make sense to say, Uma Mizbeach Hakal, Asal if, when it comes to the Mizbeach, the holiness that there is in the Mizbeach is less, is lighter, and nevertheless the Torah says you're not allowed to take these large steps, when it comes to the Heichal of the Beis HaMikdash, and then the Holy of Holies, where it's much more severe, there's a greater level of holiness there. Dinu, most definitely, the halacha should be that it shouldn't be allowed to take these large steps there. That it's more severe here, a greater level of holiness. Talmud Loimar, that's why the pasuk comes and clarifies, Asher loisigale ervoscha olav, that only on the Mizbeach does the pasuk say that you may not go up on steps, not to expose yourself. Only going up to the Mizbeach, you may not take these extra large steps. What you do, you are allowed, that is, to go up to the Heichal, into the Kodesh HaKadoshim with these large steps. After this point, where he points out that it's only regarding the Mizbeach, then he comes with the Kavachayme that we could learn from here regarding humiliating one's friend. However, Rashi explains the pasuk here differently. In the beginning of his explanation on this pasuk, whereas Masbid and pasuk, he explains what the pasuk is saying. Is Mefarish Rashi says, "Shal yidei mailas." If there are stairs going up to the Mizbeach, it forces you to widen your steps. Even though this is not literally any exposure of your skin, because the pasuk says that the Kohanim wore linen pants, so they were covered either way. Nevertheless, walking up with wide steps, it's somewhat close or similar to a certain exposure. And this is a behavior which is a minig b'zayin, a manner of humiliation. That's what Rashi explains first, and then after this he brings the limud, the lesson we learn from here regarding humiliating one's friend. Now, so here let's understand first the context of how the Mechilte brings this lesson from here. Dos was the Kavachayma now come to Mechilte, the fact that in this Kavachayma, this lesson, comes here in the Mechilte. Gleich nach dem Miot, after it comes and says this exclusion. It's only on the Mizbeach that you may not take large steps. But you're allowed to take these large steps when you're in the Heichal or the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So this can be explained as the mit vert bavarend was me kennt fragen. It's brought in this context because otherwise there would be a question. What's the question on this? Der Isser von leisigala vascha olav. This Isser, fact that it's forbidden to expose yourself by going up with large steps on the stones of the Mizbeach. Not to humiliate the stones of the Mizbeach. is l'chayre nit mitzad the avne mizbeach mitzad atzma. Seemingly, this has nothing to do with the actual physical stones of the mizbeach, that you may not humiliate these stones. Nor tzilidem v'zayin de gatel from mizbeach or mikdash. Rather, it's because the stones of the mizbeach are a part of the mizbeach, which is in the Beis HaMikdash. Is asaninyan from kedushas v'yiras hamizbeach. So therefore, there is the special kedusha and the reverence that there is from the mizbeach. Was this verbunden mit kavod Hashem, which is a result of the honor that you have to honor Hashem. Was the sheire oitem mizbeach or mikdash. Hashem, which dwells here on the mizbeach and in the Beis HaMikdash in general. So the whole union over here of this special honor that you have to give, and the way you walk up on the mizbeach, not to humiliate, is not really related to the actual stones of the mizbeach at all. It's because of the kedusha that there is here in this place. Al derech v'de mitzvah from meire mikdash b'chlal. This is similar to the mitzvah of the awe and reverence that we have to have in our behavior in the Beis HaMikdash in general. Was, as the Rambam says, lo min hamikdash ate yarei. The fear here or the awe here is not from the actual place, the physical place or structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself. Rather from the one that dwells here, the presence of the Shechina in this place, in the Beis HaMikdash. And the way the Chinuch puts this, as das is likvoya benafshisenu yiras hamokim baruchu. The idea of being careful how you behave with the proper respect and reverence in the Beis HaMikdash is actually for the person himself to establish within his own soul the awe of Hashem, the chashivusai, and the importance and the greatness of Hashem. And therefore, being in a place where the Shechina dwells, we are commanded to be very careful not to have any level of frivolous behavior at all. So if so, the question becomes, how is it then possible to learn out a lesson with a kal v'chomer from the way we're supposed to treat the stones of the Mizbeach to the way one is supposed to treat his friend? Vibalt, as by the avonim, is da kedusha. You can refute this kal v'chomer by simply saying the reason you have to have this unique, special behavior in regards to the stones is because there's a level of kedusha here, the Shechina that dwells here. And that doesn't apply when it comes to the way you treat your fellow. So this is the context of where the Mechilta brings this. Since, however, the Mechilta first points out, as matfriya upgelend, we already explained, as olav yata piseh psia gasa, that it's only on the Mizbeach itself that you may not take these large steps. But entering into the Heichal or in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you may take these large steps. Thus, now if we were to accept the point that we said before, that this is all connected, as das ist verbunden mit kavod hamikdash v'chulu, that this is connected to the special reverence that you have to have in the Beis HaMikdash because of the honor of Hashem, wollte Risse from Pesiya Gasse gedacht chal sein, euch beheichol und bekodesh HaKadoshim. So this Isser, that it should be forbidden to walk with these large steps, should definitely take effect in the Heichel and the Kodesh HaKadoshim v'ad Rabbi. On the contrary, noch starker, definitely even stronger here. It's a place where the level of Kedusha is more powerful than it is at the Mizbeach. So the fact that this is not so is the fun move on. From this we understand as the Issa v'lisala goyme, that it's forbidden to go up on steps onto the Mizbeach is nit blois to leave then das is a Chelek from the Mikdash. It's not only because of the fact that this is part of the place here in the Beis HaMikdash with the presence of the Shechina, nor rather be'ikr, primarily mitzadi avnei HaMizbeach atzman. It's because of the actual physical stones of the Mizbeach itself that you shouldn't expose yourself to them. So therefore now, we can learn from here this lesson. When it comes to the stones that have no perception to understand anything, not for the good, not for the bad, in the Avonim Gufa, minig bizay, nevertheless Hashem says, don't behave with them, and here the emphasis regarding the very physical stones themselves, in any humiliating manner. Your friend, most definitely it's the right thing where you treat your friend not to humiliate him in any way. That's the context, the way this is brought in the Mechilta. So now let's take a look how Rashi brings this. With this we can understand why Rashi, which does not bring this whole drasha that the Mechilta says, about this distinction between the Heichal, Kodesh HaKadoshim versus the Mizbeach. So here Rashi adds the words in the way he puts this lesson from the Mizbeach, from the stones of the Mizbeach, Amra Torah Hoyel V'yesh Behem Tzorech. Since the stones of the Mizbeach have a certain need. Therefore, like Tinik Ben Minik B'Zayim, do not behave towards them in a humiliating manner. So why is Rashi adding these words, V'yesh Behem Tzorech, the question that Rabbi asked in the beginning of the Sikha? V'balt, as in Pirish Rashi, vet nitemont der miut, olavi at peseh chulu, aval at peseh behechol v'kodesh kadoshim. Rashi does not bring this exclusion that that you shouldn't walk with these large steps applies only to the Mizbeach and not in the Heichel of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. From welchem en weis, as der Isser, from v'leisale b'mailois, is verbunden mit avne Mizbeach mitzad atzmam, kanal. It's from that you understand that this Isser here, not to walk up on steps on the Mizbeach, is related primarily to the actual physical stones of the Mizbeach itself. Moz Rashi madgish zayin the minyan in dem kavachayim gufa. So therefore, Rashi has to clarify and highlight this point in the actual lesson in the Kavachayim itself, that you should understand that we're learning it from the stones themselves and not from the fact that the stones are part of the Mizbeach and it's part of the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore Rashi says the words, Hoyel v'yesh b'hem tzorech. It's because the stones of the Mizbeach, they have a need. Which means, v'balt as an avonam halalu from Mizbeach. Is da an inyam miyuchad, because in these stones of the Mizbeach there's something unique. Yesh behem tzorech, they have a certain need, a certain use. Was das bringt dem Isser from v'leisala b'mailois asher lisigaler vascha olav. And this is the reason for why one should not expose himself on the stones of the Mizbeach. Specifically on the stones of the Mizbeach, as the Rabbi will explain, it's only the stones of the Mizbeach that have this unique use, and we don't find it by the Heichal or Kodesh HaKadoshim. Of the Avnei HaMizbeach kishel ha'atzmam. And this is regarding the actual stones of the Mizbeach themselves. Not the fact that the Mizbeach is part of the Mikdash in general, where you have the presence of the Shechina. That's what Rashi is emphasizing with these words. There is a certain need in them, in the actual physical stones going up to the Mizbeach. And therefore we can learn a lesson from here, also to the way a person treats his friend. This explains why we don't find any Yisro that it should be forbidden to build steps in any other places in the Beis HaMikdash. Even though as a result, going up in steps, take wider steps, and there's a certain level of exposure. On the contrary, as an given milas, some ulam heichel, the war steps, to go up to the ulam, which was the foyer in front of the heichel, while by the avanim from di milas, because there by the stones of those steps going up to the ulam and the heichel is nita der yesh behem tzorech. Over there you don't have this unique need that there is with the steps going up to the Mizbeach, and therefore over there this concept of this humiliation, so to speak, that there is for these stones does not apply over there, as will be explained over here. So here, this is the key point over here. These few words that Rashi adds and changes from what it says in the Mechilta, Hoyel v'yesh behem tzorech, this comes to clarify what's unique about the stones of the steps going up to the Mizbeach. It's about these steps themselves, the stones themselves, that is, not the holiness that's in them, and it's specifically by Mizbeach and not by any other part of the Beis HaMikdash, and that's the special lesson we learn from here regarding not humiliating one's friend. So now let's understand what this is all about. What is the unique need that there is in the steps going up to the Mizbeach that's different, that you don't have in any other place in the Beis HaMikdash? The explanation here is as follows. Das was man lernt von Avne Mizbeach. So first let's understand what exactly is it that we're learning out from over here from the stones of the Mizbeach as metonit mevaza zayin atzveiten yidin, that one may not humiliate another yid. The l'chayre temua. So here the Rebbe points out a very simple and obvious, strong question on this. The fact that you're not allowed to humiliate your friend, do you need to have a lesson that you learn from the stones on the steps going up to the Mizbeach, or not steps, rather there was a ramp, and you have to learn from this that you're not allowed to embarrass, humiliate your friend? It's obvious. A person may not humiliate his friend. There must be something unique over here. We're not talking about a simple level of humiliation that we're learning over here from the stones going up to the Mizbeach. So the point here is as follows. Because over here, by Avne Mizbeach, by the stones of the Mizbeach, We're not talking about any kind of literal humiliation. Now, rather, both in the language of the Mechilta and Rashi, minig bizayin. This is a behavior that is humiliation. It's not actual humiliation, but it's a behavior of humiliation. And the reason why there's no actual humiliation here is for a few reasons. The different details that there usually is involved in humiliation does not apply here. As far as the actual stones are concerned, was they feel it can be zayin. They have no perception to feel, no feelings to feel any kind of humiliation. But in the hergish habizayin is an inikri in bizayin. Obviously, the actual feelings, when it comes to humiliation, is the main thing that humiliation is all about. And we see this in the Gemara when it discusses the halacha of Baishes, when one humiliates his friend and you have to pay for that actually. And the Gemara there says, according to one opinion, as the ganze chiyuv from Baishes is daf geven es is faran kisufa. The whole obligation to pay for humiliating your friend only applies when there's kisufa, when there's actually a feeling of embarrassment. He's aware of the fact that you humiliated him, and that because of that awareness and that feeling is what you have to pay him for. And the relevance of this is oib if you embarrass someone in his sleep and then he doesn't wake up from his sleep, he passes away in his sleep. So this person never actually felt this humiliation, even though while he was asleep, you did something humiliating to him and people laughed at him and he got humiliated, but he himself never though felt that humiliation. Is mem pater. You're exempt of any payment for this humiliation. So therefore here we see the same thing regarding the stones. Obviously, the main concept of what humiliation consists of, the feeling of the embarrassment, does not apply to the stones. And also if you look at the very act of what's causing the humiliation, so you also don't have that here either. We're not talking over here about a behavior where a person is behaving in a degrading manner or in some kind of frivolous behavior. What in kalas roishu bizoyim mamish is also b'chol shetach hamishkan v'hamikdash. Any kind of behavior like this, where a person is degrading the holiness of the place of the Beis Hamikdash, that's forbidden in any area of the Beis Hamikdash. It's not unique to the way you walk up to the Mizbeach. No, rather, do retzach blois vegem minig bizoyim. Again, the expression that Rashi and the Mechilta say, here we're talking about simply a kind of behavior of bizayin. What does it mean, a behavior of bizayin? A maise, an act, was can ausgeteilt werden via initial bizayin. That can be interpreted as something which is humiliating. It's not actually an act that's humiliating, but it's an act that could be interpreted this way. Und wie Rashi sagt, as bei Eile b'mailes, da is netak kain gilui ever mamish. As Rashi clarifies, here going up on the stairs because the kain wore pants, so there's no actual exposure at all. No karev legilui erva. It's a certain way, a style of walking with wide steps, which can be interpreted, which can look like that there's an exposure, even though there is no actual exposure. So there's really no actual humiliation on any level at all. And in the order the Rebbe adds, in order 25, the Rebbe adds, even as far as the person walking up on the Mizbeach, there's no intention of humiliating on his behalf as well. He's not trying to humiliate at all. He's just trying to walk up on the Mizbeach and going on up the stairs and taking those large steps that are necessary. And the fun that is, from here, lent ben up legabi chaveira. So nevertheless, we see over here how strong and how careful you have to be with not humiliating your friend, that we learn from here, as a tarnit zayin a maise versus blois a minig bizayin. You may not do any action towards your friend, even something which is just a minig bizayin. It can be interpreted like an embarrassment. On a fill and the zweite filter by kein bushu bizayin. And that includes even in a situation where your friend doesn't feel any embarrassment or humiliation. But still, we learn from the stones going up to the Mizbeach that the Torah is telling you that even this itself is also forbidden. That's the general novelty here of this lesson that we're learning out from the stones of the Mizbeach to the way one should treat his friend. Here, though, the Rebbe will now explain there's a difference the way the Mechilta defines this and the way Rashi defines it, as we'll see. And then is the chiluk zwischen der Mechilte und Rashi. And here regarding this, speaking about this level of humiliation, which is not really a humiliation at all. Here, though, there's a difference between the Mechilte and Rashi. In was besteht der Issa? What exactly is it that's forbidden about this act there? L'das ha-Mechilte. According to the opinion of the Mechilte, besteht der Issa in Pa'ulas Adam. What's forbidden here is the act that the person is doing. Mitar afilin eton amaisa. You may not do even such an action. Was is nit kein maisa bezayin. It's true. It's not an act that's humiliating. No blois a minig bezayin. Just something which is minig bezayin, as the Rabbi said before, which means it could be interpreted as humiliation. That itself is what the Torah is saying. Very fact that it could be interpreted as humiliation, there is some element, some aspect of humiliation here, and even this is forbidden by the stones in the Mizbeach. How much more so regarding your friend? That's the pshat according to the Mechilte. Rashi, however, which is pshat. Rashi is looking at things more at the simple and literal sense. Can Azaynit learn? Rashi cannot learn this way. Warum lefizeh is nitok kein tam zum mechalik sein zwischen Avnei Mizbeach and Avnei Hechel? Because then in Rashi's opinion, there would be no reason to make any distinction between the stones going up to the Mizbeach or the stones going up to the Hechel or into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The form was der Isser is dafke by Avnei Mizbeach. The fact that this Isser only applies to the stones going on to the Mizbeach is verstandig, it's understood. As mitzat po'ulas ha'adam alein, volt kein Isser nit gewen. If it was just the act that the person is doing, it would not be forbidden at all. Varom das is nit gewen kein emes a maise bezayin. As explained before, this is not at all in any way a real act of any humiliation at all. So Rashi does not accept what the Mechilte says, that the act itself, even though there is no humiliation here, but nevertheless, because it can be interpreted as humiliation, so the act itself is forbidden. Rashi doesn't accept that. On a simple level, if there's no humiliation here in any way, so then there's no Isser. Nor by the Avnei Mizbeach is da an miyuchad. Rather, here Rashi holds that when it comes to the stones of the Mizbeach, there's something unique. And here again, the Rebbe comes back to the diak of these few words that Rashi adds, that the Mechilte does not say, Hoyo v'yesh bem tzarech. Since the stones of the Mizbeach have a certain need. But mitzadem is their minig bizayin goyrim ame'en kisufa. Because of this need, so therefore, the minig bizayin, when a person walks up in this humiliating manner, it causes a certain level of humiliation, a somewhat of humiliation, by die was davon onkommen zu die avonim, not regarding the stones themselves, but rather by those that are using these stones, and that's what Rashi means by yesh bem tzarech, the use or the need that there is in these stones, kidlakamon, as will be explained, ubemela is a sasa. And that's the reason why it's forbidden to take these large steps up on steps on the Mizbeach. That's what Rashi's pshat is. So the act itself, there's actually nothing wrong with the act itself at all. But it's the v'yesh bem tzarech regarding those that are making use out of these stones going up to the Mizbeach. What is this all about? The explanation for this is as follows. Mithoyel v'yesh bem tzarech, when Rashi says, since the stones of the Mizbeach have a need, meint Rashi zu sagen, what Rashi is saying with this is, as the Kayanim, kennen et ton zer aveda of the Mizbeach, the Kayanim have no way to do their service of the bringing the karbonis on the Mizbeach, nor seiden durch zer oile sein areivsteigen of the Avanim. The only ways is if they're going to go up to the Mizbeach through these stones over here, that, whether on steps or on a ramp going up to the Mizbeach. That's the only way they can get here. Und das is the time from leitinig ben minig bizayin. This is what Rashi is saying. This is the reason why you should not do anything humiliating in relation to the stones. Weil durich noyeg sein am minig bizayin b'shayches to the avnei ha-mizbeach. Because if the act over here in relation to the stones of the Mizbeach is humiliating, is me mederach memele oich mevaze die kayanim was davon ankommen zu the avanim. Automatically, this becomes also a certain level of humiliation for the Kayanim, that this is their only pathway to go up to the Mizbeach. So that's the humiliation that Rashi is talking about here. Not the stones themselves. The act itself is not the issue. But the fact that this is a designated pathway, that this is the only way actually, that the Kayanim could go up on the Mizbeach. So therefore, the way you should treat the way you behave going up on this pathway should be in a dignified, honorable way, and should be no level of humiliation at all, because then it becomes humiliating for the Kayanim that are making use out of this pathway going up to the Mizbeach. Now, bedugmas v'lei mamish, we can bring an example for this, even though it's not literally the same thing. The Eshtet in Rishonim, and a point that it says in the Rishonim, the gabi chiyav tashluma from Beishas, when it comes to the obligation to pay, when you humiliate someone, as their din rakak bebigdei potter. The halacha that it says in the Mishnah in Baba Kama, that if you spit at someone's garment, then he's potter for this you're potter for this humiliation, if the spit only lands on his garment and not on his body itself. So the Rishonim say about this is dafke when the mizbayish at b'shas ma'aseh the beg nit getrogen. That's only if the one that got humiliated is not actually wearing this garment. If, however, when he's being spit at the garment, he's wearing this garment, is the reikik chayav, then the one that spit is going to be obligated to pay for this humiliation. By spitting at the garment he's wearing, he's humiliating the person which is wearing this garment. Right, so similar over here regarding this passageway, this pathway going up to the Mizbeach. This is the pathway that all the Kohanim, and the only way the Kohanim can go up to Mizbeach, by in any way acting in a way which could even be interpreted as humiliation regarding this pathway going up to the Mizbeach, it in turn becomes a certain level of humiliation to the Kohanim that are using this pathway. Now by contrast, this doesn't apply when it comes to the steps going up to the Heichel. Is ein b'em tzorech. Over there, they don't have this kind of need that there is by the Mizbeach for two reasons. File Aleph, number one, it's not the very only pathway, it's not the only entrance into the Heichel. There are many other entrances from the sides to enter into the Heichel without these steps. Based on another point, the Milas zenen gewen nit lifnei Heichel. The steps don't take you directly into the Heichel of the Beis HaMikdash, wo der Aveda is getan geworden, where the Aveda is done, that's where the Mizbeach, the Menorah is, and everything else. Now, lifnei Ulam, the steps take you into the Ulam, which is this room, this foyer in front of the Heichel. Kumpem Elois, if so it comes out as the Alichas HaKainim zum Heichel, durch die Meile shel lifnei Ulam, that the Kainim in this pathway going up on these steps to get into the Ulam, which then brings you into the Heichel, is nit kein Chelek und Seirich von zer Aveda beHeichel. It's not a portion and directly related to the actual Aveda that's done in the Heichel itself. Mashenkin by Mizbeach. On the other hand, though, when it comes to the Mizbeach, is doch der Kevesh HaMizbeach a tel from Mizbeach Gufe. Not only is this the only pathway to get up to the Mizbeach, to do the Aveda, but it's actually a part of the very Mizbeach itself. Biz, as the Pasuk sagt, v'leisale b'malois al Mizbechi. You should not go up on steps on my Mizbeach. Which means as a Reivgang of the Milas or the Kevesh to Mizbeach, going up on steps or a ramp to the Mizbeach, vet gerechnet wie is auf dem Mizbeach gufe. This is actually already being on the Mizbeach itself, because the Mizbeach consists of the place where the Karbanis are brought on the Mizbeach, and the ramp or the stairs would be part of the Mizbeach itself. Now, here we can understand the lesson that we learn from this regarding embarrassing your friend. So the way Rashi understands, the reason why you shouldn't be acting in this humiliating manner, or rather acting in a way which could be interpreted as humiliating. And the main concern over here is regarding the Kohanim that use this ramp going up, or the stairs going up. So from this, we now understand also differently what exactly is the lesson that we learn over here regarding embarrassing your friend. From this we learn out also when it comes to humiliating one's friend. Even if something that you're doing towards your friend is just an act that could be interpreted as humiliation, but there was no actual humiliation or embarrassment at all. But yet we learn from here, since your friend is created in the image of your creator. So then it comes out as mit minig bizayin legabe chaveiroi, that by this kind of conduct that could be interpreted as humiliation towards your friend is as haninyan from bizayin klape yitzrecha. There's a humiliation over here for the Eibishter, which he's created in Hashem's image. That's the comparison over here. And al derech by the Yisro leisale v'maylas al mizbechi. So this is exactly how we're learning it out from the way it is, going up on the stones to the Mizbeach. Was der minig bezayin, b'shachas to the avonim, this way of acting in this humiliating manner. There's no actual humiliation here, but this act of minig bezayin, in regards to the stones, brengt that bezayin for the kainim. So for the stone, the act itself, there is no actual humiliation here at all. But for the kainim, this is their pathway. This is humiliating that they're going here up in such a kind of way with these large steps. It creates a humiliation for them. So the same thing we say that the humiliation, you may say that for my friend, I didn't cause any humiliation, zero. But nevertheless, he's created in the image of Hashem, so it is something which could be interpreted as humiliation, becomes the humiliation for Hashem, which he's created in his image. Now coming back here to the unique expression or the Lashon of Rashi, different than what it says in the Mechilta. We could understand the language that Rashi uses when he says here, this lesson with this Kal V'Chaim that we learn from the stones of the Mizbeach, to not humiliating one's friend. And Rashi says, that these stones have no understanding, no perception to be particular about any humiliation. Nevertheless, the Torah says, but since they have a need, so do not behave in this humiliating manner. Your friend that is created in the image of your creator, and he is particular about his embarrassment, definitely you shouldn't do this. And Rashi's language is unlike the Mechilta, where steht nit dem Lashon lahakbed al bezyonen umakbed al bezyonen. It doesn't use this expression of being particular and caring about the embarrassment, not regarding the stones and not regarding the friend. The mit is Rashi Masber. The reason Rashi uses this expression here is because Rashi is explaining as follows. That the lesson goes as follows. When it comes to these stones that have no understanding to care about their embarrassment. is by So if that's the case, the entire concept of humiliation is impossible by them. It's not just that there's no actual humiliation, but if there's no kepede, then there's no concept of humiliation. If one is careless about any humiliation, then there is no humiliation. Humiliation is not a factual thing. Humiliation is a very subjective thing. If the one that's getting humiliated is not getting humiliated because he doesn't care, so there isn't any concept of humiliation. So when it comes to the stones, they don't have das, and it's impossible for them to be particular care about the humiliation. So Rashi is saying with this, here we're talking about physical stones where the whole possibility of Bizayin doesn't even begin. But yet, that's all looking at the stones and the act that's being done to the stones themselves, and there's zero humiliation at all. And this is specifically Rashi's opinion, as I ever pointed out before, that the Mechilta holds that even though there is no actual humiliation regarding the stones themselves, but yet, because it's an act that could be interpreted as humiliation, so therefore, the Torah says this is forbidden even regarding stones. But Rashi, no. Rashi is emphasizing there's no kepeda. As far as the act itself, in regards to the stones, there's zero humiliation here. But yet, mitzad the ruv is yeshbem tzorech, but because of the fact that there is a need, a use of these stones, so the kainim, and that's the kainim that use this as a pathway going up on the mizbeach, this is considered to be a minig bizayin for those that are using this pathway going up to the mizbeach. That's the way it is by the stones. So from this we learn out, there's alachas kama v'kama. How much more so is this the case as metonit noig zayin minig bizayin legabe chavercha, that one should not behave with a conduct of humiliation towards his friend, and that is even though aleph, that is the reason here why this is more important is shu b'dmus yitzrecha, because he has the image of your creator. And now here, this is much more than the use that there is for the kainim by the mizbeach. Why? The shayches zwischen im mit yitzrecha, the relation that there is with your friend and his creator is yasher v'nika. It's direct and it's very recognizable. The image of a human being is in the same image as his creator. So therefore, by embarrassing him, or even if you're not actually embarrassing him, but you're doing something that could be interpreted as humiliating, it creates a humiliation for the image that he carries, which is Hashem. Now this is more than the Mizbeach. Nid vi avne Mizbeach and Kohanim. Not like the relation that there is between the stones of the Mizbeach and the Kohanim that use it as a pathway going up to the Mizbeach. There's no actual relation between them and the image. It's just the pathway that they use. On Bay is another reason, another point why it's much more severe here. Regarding your friend, and he is particular regarding this humiliation. Meaning he's a human being. He could be particular about his humiliation, even if in this case he's not. So therefore, even here regarding your friend, there could be a possibility of being humiliated. By contrast, when it comes to the stones of the Mizbeach, as far as the stones themselves are concerned, there's absolutely no possibility of any feelings of humiliation. So here you understand what the Rabbi is saying here, reinterpreting this entire lesson. We're not only talking about a lesson being learned from the stones of the Mizbeach to embarrassing your friend, a human being, but it's also about the Kohanim that become humiliated as a result of the way you behave towards the stones, which serves as the pathway for the Kohanim. So therefore the Rebbe is clarifying over here that even as far as the Kohanim is concerned, which are human beings, but still there's a Kal V'chomer, the lesson about not humiliating your friend is still much more than the way the Kohanim get humiliated by the way you treat these stones, which is their pathway. As the Rebbe explained, because the stones themselves are just stones. The Kohanim don't carry the image of the stones. It's just a pathway. Whereas by the human being, your friend, he carries the image of Hashem. This is the conclusion of the Pshat and Rashi. And we see here how every word in Rashi is precise and how Rashi has a different understanding of this Kal V'chomer than the way it says it in the Mechilta. Just because of these few words, primarily these few words, Hoyel v'yesh ben tzairech, explains a whole different Pshat in Rashi. And we see everything that Rashi says. This is a different Kal V'chomer, a different limud from the Kohanim that go on the stones of the Mizbeach and could be humiliated to the friend that it humiliates Hashem, which carries the image, which a person carries the image of Hashem. The Rebbe concludes the Sikha here with a lesson from Rashi, or the understanding of Rashi, in the wine of Torah, the Yeina Shel Torah, that we can see here in Rashi. Pirish Rashi ala Torah is doch Yeina Shel Torah. Rashi ala Torah has the deeper understanding, the wine of Torah. Is Yishleimar is in them Pirish Rashi b'siyim parsha. So we can say now that in this Rashi, which is the conclusion of the whole parsha, this is the very last Rashi, everything goes by the conclusion. Is Meramez, or is Merumez, the Ikke v'teichen from Klolos HaSeder. It's hinted there, the main point of the content of the entire parsha, which is the Rinni from Matan Torah. This is the parsha of Matan Torah, Aseres HaDibris, which is the Ten Commandments. Kishem v'di Aseres HaDibris. Zenen koilul nit nar di Dibris, von anoichi avayle kechel na yilecha. So in the Aseres HaDibris, it contains in it not only the most important of them, which is Hashem saying that I am your only God, and you should not serve any other idols. The Hechste in Yonim and Achtas Hashem, and those two of the Aseres HaDibris include the highest and greatest, most lofty ideas of the unity of Hashem. Not oich di Dibris ha'achreinim. It also includes the other dibris later on, which are very simple matters. To the most very simple and basic ideas of behavior to one's fellow. Not to murder, and so on, and the way you behave towards your friend. Similar we see here in this Rashi, Rashi, the Torah Shebal Peh, the explanation of the Chumash in the last Rashi here is the Seif from Parshas Yisro. What is the conclusion of Parshas Yisro? V'ez dav zayin, the Zehiris betachlis. So on one hand, Rashi is talking simply about how one has to be extremely careful in inyanim pshutim, in very simple matters, von anhagos ben adam lachaveirei, in the behavior towards your friend. Bis zu sein Eisgeht a fille von minig bezayin, even to be careful with something which is just a act that can be interpreted as humiliation, even if there's no actual humiliation here. But on the other hand, though, just like it is with the Aseres HaDibris, that the simple commandments are not separate from the first commandments that are speaking about very high and lofty ideas about who Hashem is. But rather, as explained in many places, as das, was man hat die Sachen reingestellt in die Aseres Adibris, the fact that these simple ideas were placed here, as it's part of the Aseres Adibris, is euch zu lernen, it's here to teach you. As is an ein inyan mit anochi havai lekecha. It's all part of and it's all the same idea as anochi havai lekecha, which means euch didvarim sheben adam lachaveiroi zenen beemes ben adam lamoken. Even those things that the Torah says that are between you and your friend, they are really also matters that are relevant and are important for ben adam lamoken in your connection and your understanding or your relationship to Hashem. Medav zayin nizir and zeh val das is rotzen Hashem. The reason that you should be careful, the way you treat your friend, is because this is the will of Hashem. As much as Anochi Havai Lekecha or Le'ilacha Lekim Achedim is expressing the will of Hashem and who Hashem is on the highest level. So too we see this point here in Rashi. Is Eich Rashi Meisif. So Rashi here adds and explains, as the Hid is Klapik Chavercha, the way you have to be careful, the way you treat your friend, is the Favos that is B'dmus Yitzrecha. It's not only because it's between you and your friend and you have to be a mensch to him, but it's also because he has the image of your creator. The Shaychus Iser. So here Rashi points out that the connection that there is between the way you treat your friend to this, that this is also relevant to your connection to Hashem, is nitno mitzadim tzivui. It's not only because this is Hashem's command. As mandav zayin nizir in the inyanim mitzat tzivi Hashem. So you have to be careful with the way you treat your friend, not simply because you have to be a mensch, but because this is the will of Hashem. This is His command. That's the simple connection between ben adam lachaveiroi and ben adam lamokim. But there's another point here. Naroich val chavercha on mokim is an ein demus. But also because your friend and your creator have the same image, kaviyachol, so to speak. Und der Rebbe, so therefore, is the nit zayin nizah bekavod chavercha, by not being careful with the honor of your friend, haste an nit zehiris and kavod HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This consists a not being careful with the honor of Hashem. From all this we learn out that how much more so this is all too true in the positive sense as Avas Yisrael, when one adds in love for another Yid. Bis so an Ave built to Migbeles, to the point where a person has a boundless love, was brengt so an Hage from Mechabed and Chavercha betachlis Azhiris, which brings a person to behave with the right honor, the proper honor to a friend in the greatest level. Is das bepnimiyis an inyan von Avas HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Kavod Shemayim. So really, on a deeper level, what's here in the way you treat your friend is the way you treat Hashem Himself and the honor that you have for heaven. Ukamayim aponim laponim. And therefore, as the water that's reflected when a person puts his face in the water, so too Hashem treats us back in the same way. Das is megale Avas HaKadosh Baruch Hu zu Yidden. This reveals the love that Hashem has for Yidden here in this world. Was bringt sof zu aromas kavod Yisro afile be'enei kol ami aretz, and this will bring, in the end, that the honor of Yidden should be raised even in the eyes of all the nations of the world. Bis to the kavod amiti, was wird sein begula amitis v'ashleima yedei Mashiach tzedkeinu, until we'll come to the real honor that will be revealed with the coming and complete redemption through Mashiach b'mheira v'yameinu mamish.